This podcast is powered by Zencaster. My guest on today's podcast is Edmond Clark. Edmond Clark is a Toronto-based American and Canadian thespian. He received his honors bachelor's degree in theater studies, performance, and creation research from York University in 2019. His master's degree in management in management at the Schulich School of Business in 2021, and for the last 5 years has trained intensively at the Toronto Theatre Academy in voice, movement, and stylization, where he would go on to specialize in and cultivate his love for Shakespearean and classical works. For over 12 years, Edmond has performed in numerous amateur to professional productions, whether it be on stage and dance, in theater, or on camera and film. Recently, he was awarded as an official selection in the Short Film Showcase at the 2021 Diversity at Cannes Film Festival corner for the film End of the World, written by Caleb John Cushing and directed by Sarah Lang. Edmond also appeared in the Magic Immersive exhibit, which uses 3D projections and live magicians. This is the first time audiences can marvel at the greatest illusions up close. When he is not performing as an actor, he is instructing as a personal trainer, styling as a sales consultant at Moore's Clothing for Men, and fighting ALS, progressive neurodegenerative disease, as a volunteer walk committee member for the ALS Society of Canada. And lest we forget, Edmond is a proud father to his scale son, Fafner, his pet lizard. Please welcome my guest, Edmond Clark, to the show, and please apologies for the for your bio.
All good, all good, all good. Some of those words were a little bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
Even I had to kind of look up. I should have. Even I, when I first joined the ALS Society, I was looking up what's an easier way to say neuromuscular degenerative disease. So I cut out the muscular.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I did the best I could. You have quite a bio, Edmond. You have had quite a career, and I actually met you first in Chicago, like recently. That's how we met. You came to see me perform in Teatro Zinzani in Chicago, and it was a wonderful show. You were fabulous. You were so wonderful. It was so nice to have you there and to meet you there, and then to later on see you in Magic Immersive.
Yeah, honestly, and I just want to say thank you first and foremost for having me on the podcast. And I mean, what a gorgeous performance, performer as well was Teatro Zinzani. I mean, I was blown away, and that was only my second time going to Chicago, and the first time I had gotten to see live performance there. And honestly, the bar was raised. It was incredible, and I mean, I was so giddy knowing you all were going to come and see my show afterwards.
Yeah, we were super excited, and like there, it's not always that you get to see a lot of different types of shows when you're in a show. So it was really fun, and it was great because you guys had several shows like throughout the afternoon, and we were working at night. So I love when shows are running at different times of the day because then you get to run around. And
Yeah,
Magic
just kind of
Immersive was
bounce
really.
back and forth.
Oh yeah, please continue.
Oh yeah, it was. Well, I have to say, I have to admit. So I was blown away by your performances at Zinzani, and I couldn't stop talking about it afterwards. And because of our mutual connections with some of the cast members, and you all got the opportunity to see the show Magic Immersive that I was in, I was told backstage that, hey, the cast from Zinzani are coming to this afternoon's performance. And my I became a nervous wreck behind stage. I know it may not have looked that way. I hope it didn't look that way when you were watching the performance. But it was pretty funny because I was one or two shows before you all arrived for the one of the matinees, and the first show I was just talking with one of my castmates backstage, saying, "Oh man, I'm really hoping that the jokes land. I'm really hoping that I get the timing right for the fire cage." and the assistant's revenge and the puzzle piece. I hope the puzzle piece doesn't fall off the stage. Like, it has fallen off the stage before. and and then when I think you came to one of the bigger performances too, so one of the bigger crowds. And when the curtains opened, I saw some of my colleagues were standing next to you all in the crowd,
Mhm.
and after the show, they came up to me and they said, "You were pretty funny up there." I said, "Oh yeah, why is that?" And they said, "Because you pulled out all the stops. You used every single joke that you've that you've ever found success in from the run of the show, trying to make sure that everything landed." But it was awesome. It was amazing. It was really thrilling to have you all in the crowd and motivating.
That's the best. I love hearing the behind the scenes of how artists feel when other artists are coming to see them, because it's a whole thing. And for every like listener out there, it's a thing. Like, to have other performers come and feel like you're being seen on a completely different level, and you feel so exposed when other performers come, because you know that we have maybe seen some elements to what you're doing. We know quicker if there's a kind of a mistake being made. And even though I like to pride myself in being very supportive as an audience, because as we know, artists can be the hardest audience to play for.
That they can
People
be.
might think that artists are the easiest, but actually we can be the hardest audience. And since the beginning of my career, I've always been very sensitive to that, and always tried to show up as an audience member would. That's just as elated as someone who's not seen magic or not seen acrobatics or not seen circus over and over and over again, because we've been doing this for so many years, and sometimes people can get a little bit jaded.
Yeah.
And like, I love hearing how you felt, because we all do it as performers of like, oh, don't let that happen, or sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it's awesome. It didn't look like that.
Absolutely.
You were amazing.
Oh, that's good.
You're amazing. And I wanted to talk
That's
about, I
amazing.
mean, like, Magic Immersive. I just want to tell listeners also, too, like, the advertisement that you have for Magic Immersive in Chicago was amazing. Like, you couldn't step in Chicago 2 seconds without seeing something for Magic Immersive.
Oh, so actually on that, uh,
Brilliant.
just so everyone is aware, the advertisement, because I didn't know what I was walking myself into when I got to Chicago. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand the scale of it. I'm not from, spoiler alert, I'm not from the magician world or magic world. I'm from the theater world.
Mm-hmm.
But I came I came into Chicago, and just to go off of what you were saying about the advertisement, every other trash can we saw in Chicago had magic immersive on it. And
And I actually have
we thought,
I have a little story about that too. One of the main performers in Zinzani, I think you remember Mr. PP, Mr. Ping Pong. He did the
yeah.
ping pong balls. He's
Oh my
very,
god,
very, very
yes.
tall. And we were speaking about Magic Immersive. And, I'm very, very tiny, as are the other small acrobatic flyers in the show. And so for us, it's like very level, like, height level for all the trash cans and such. And for Mr. People, he's very, very tall. He's like, he's like like over 6 feet for listeners. Like, he's, like
Yeah.
almost 2 meters. I mean, that's a little excessive, but he's very tall. And he said, I haven't seen not one advertisement for the show. And everybody looked at us and they said, well, those two have, because they see all the trash cans.
They're eye level with the with the trash cans.
Yeah, we're so teeny. Yeah. Anyway.
That's pretty funny. That's cute. Yeah, it was funny to see all of our our advertisement on trash cans, because one could make a derogative connection to it, but it was it was still it was effective. It was effective. I mean,
It
it
was,
worked at the
yeah,
end of the day.
it was effective. It was like one of the most effective advertising campaigns that I've ever seen for almost any show. I mean, we've seen a lot. All of us have been
Because
a part of a lot of
yeah,
shows. Please
because
continue.
if
Yeah.
you're a decent person, you're gonna throw out your trash. So it was brilliant.
Bag and recycle. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
way to
you're
my
gonna do
heart.
it.
Yeah. If you recycle, you take out your trash. you're,
Yeah.
you're getting
Yeah.
into my book. So,
And then we had that huge poster across the building, which was, I mean, pretty wild. That just kind of painted the street there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it really did. I wanted to ask, I mean, who was behind that in terms of the advertising for the show and, how strategic that was because it was really, I would say, again, it was really effective.
I wish I could tell you.
Mm.
If I could, I'd name drop them. But if they're listening, just know that your advertisement was amazing for the show, and thank you so much for the crowds that you drew in.
Yeah. Because for sure it worked and like you said I was a part of a big audience there and I really liked how it was set up. When you walk in you get a chance to see and I know that the setup was a little bit different in Chicago than it was in previous cities from what I was told from other artists and also too from those that were within the show. So it's interesting, you walk in, it's interactive. You get to be a part of the exhibit. You get to see all sorts of magic tricks from years and years and years ago, which is so great. And some of them have been donated. Some of them are like one of a kind. And like I said, I've worked with several magicians over the years. I've been a magician's assistant, which is that the correct term nowadays? Edmond, am I saying magician's assistant? Is that okay, or is there a new updated term
So
for it?
it's fine, I think, as of right now, but it is changing. I think
Hmm.
the the connection people are making with magician assistants is that they're usually female.
Hmm.
But we at Magic Immersive were trying to veer away from that because really anyone could have been our magician's assistant. Anyone uh, who could fit in the magic without without giving anything away. Anyone who could fit in the magic could be a magician's assistant. So in the performance, we instead called them our esteemed colleagues. But
Mm.
the for just in layman's terms, yeah, it was a magician's assistant.
I
I think the magician world is starting to push away from that. I'm not too sure. I know that that is what my experience was with the production.
Yes, it was my first time hearing that within the magic world with Magic Immersive, and it caught my attention. It caught all of our attention. So I'm glad that I remembered to ask about that because when we heard it, we were like, oh, and we were like, now that's interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
different. I myself again, the last time I was an esteemed colleague. I ended up in a trick in a box of water. Holding my breath.
Oh,
Yes, it was interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting trick. It wasn't as full on as the performance in Magic
the
Immersive.
water chamber and yeah.
Yes, the water chamber, which was the first time I'd actually seen a woman do water chamber, was in Magic Immersive, which was so cool.
Yeah. So yes, going back to what you had said earlier, and it'll connect to this what we're talking about right now. Things were done differently in Toronto than they were in Chicago. Toronto was sort of a testing ground, as was Chicago, but Chicago more for touring, where Toronto was more of how can we do this show, right? How,
Hmm.
where's the value in putting on this performance, and how can we do it? So once they figured all that out, that's when they wanted to tour it. But we had a much bigger cast in Toronto. I was doing something vastly different. Well, different in the sense my character and I wasn't on stage as much as I was in Chicago. I was only doing the bullet catch in Toronto, and that was it. And that was a 10-minute performance at most, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the water chamber, or they call it the secret chamber, or Houdini's escape.
Hmm.
Anyway, the water chamber.
Eugenie's Escape. I
They yeah. Yeah, they had a huge cast because with holding your breath for 3 minutes, it's a lot. It's very exhaustive. So they had, I think, about 7 or 9 swimmers,
wow.
and swimmers from, I mean, free divers to synchro to I mean, Tanya Burka, who is an aerialist.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, she was one of the swimmers as well, And when we went over to Chicago, because we reformatted it and we weren't performing as much throughout the day, they lowered the cast. But all the swimmers, three were women, and then one was non-binary. And it was, I mean, I think Magic Immersive has been one of the biggest scaled, like biggest productions to scale, with so much diversity in it.
That's great. Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
also another thing that I wanted to ask you because it was so wonderful to see you as a black magician on stage. Are you biracial, Edmond?
Yes, I am. So my mom
Mm-hmm.
is half Haitian, half white.
Oh.
My grandmother is I don't know, as white as a carton of milk in a snowstorm, as as are my cousins from her side. But I'm 3/4. I'm 3/4 black because my grandfather is Haitian. He was born in Haiti, and my dad is African American. He was born in Florida. It's in Tallahassee,
Oh.
as was I. Yeah,
Oh, wow. Wow. Yes, well, I'm also biracial and I was so surprised when I saw you as a black magician because I never see black magicians. And I've been around and working and performing in this business for quite some time. And so it was
yeah,
very refreshing. It was wonderful. And your theater background also too is, I mean, you're amazing. You're just in a, you're nominated at Cannes, which I would love to speak about that too. But I wanted to ask you what it's like being one of so few black magicians, and like you were saying too, you don't come from the magic background. You come from the theater
yeah,
background, but now that you are in this realm, which I've been working with a few people lately, that they've just gotten into doing more circus and more variete and more theater and more specialized kind of work in that way, more cirque type work, and so it's very different for them because they're like, there's entertainment and then there's this type of entertainment. like,
right,
like it's very
right,
specific in like theater and in movie and in commercial. They're like, and then you go into circus and you go into cirque and you go into magic. They're like, and it's on a completely different level even still. They're like,
yeah.
it's not what you expect. So how has that been? How has the journey to that been in your experiences too? If you'd like to reflect on that.
Yeah. Well, so much to say there. I guess I'll speak first to being a black magician. I mean, for myself, the first time ever. I never thought I would have gotten into magician work. I mean, I always thought I told magicians backstage because I got to meet so many through my. I mean, I guess I've been working with Magic Immersive for the last 4 or 5 months, so I got to meet a lot of magicians here in Toronto and down in Chicago, especially Chicago being this sort of magic capital where magicians kind of congregate and they have the magic lounge. But I I would tell people that I tell them that I couldn't be an actual magician. I just I'm too much of a fan. I get too giddy at the tricks. I understand that as a magician, you need to love your tricks, right? But I'm just I have a I'm just more I want to know, or not that I want to know, but it doesn't come from a place of I want to apply myself to this. That's just more so I want I want you to show me more, really. I think that's really what it translates to. I want you to show me more and more of this, uh, and maybe I'll figure it out. But if I don't, even better. And I love that. I just love the gaps that magician work leaves. But as a black magician, I didn't know. I honestly very fresh and new to the magic world. I wouldn't be able to tell you how many black magicians. I mean, I certainly only met one when I was in Chicago,
hmm
and he is the director at the Chicago Magic Lounge. An incredibly nice and humble guy. His name is Ben, and he showed us around. He treated us so well. If anybody listening ever gets a chance to go to the Chicago Magic Lounge, I heavily suggest that you do and that you take up whatever it has to offer that night because there's not just the main performance that they have on stage, but they have other rooms like bars and lounges where close up magic is being done, and a back room theater where even more sort of uh, leisure domain is happening.
I think it's
But
akin to
yeah,
the Magic Castle, right, in LA.
say that again.
It's very similar to the Magic Castle in LA.
Yeah, the I think they mentioned that at the Chicago Magic Lounge, how they're, because it's such a niche market. It's so niche. It's so small. So they had
Yes,
mentioned a lot of the magicians out there in LA as well.
yeah.
But as a black magician, I should get to the point. But as a black magician, it was incredible. I didn't understand I didn't fully understand the power in representation on stage until one of the preview performances, and this mother had brought her son, and they're black, and they had to leave early for some reason. I couldn't remember, but I was walking backstage going in between the acts because I operated on one stage, and then somehow through magic I ended up on the other stage. And in that magical tunnel, I'm walking backstage and I bump into these two leaving. And I said, well, I'm in costume, I'm in character. Why don't I take a picture? I really enjoyed taking pictures with people. And so I took a picture with them, and she's an influencer. I found out afterwards. And
Of
she
course.
she posted she posted on Instagram uh, just a lovely post of her having a great night with her son. I think his name was Mikey, and and what she had written was that this is the power of representation has, because Mikey now wants to be a magician, and not just any magician. He wants to be a magician like him. In reference to me, nobody can see my finger pointing. uh, but he wants to be a magician like him, and that's what he told his mom. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, that's profound. That it felt like there was another responsibility I had that I had bestowed. Honestly, I think it was an honor being a magician and getting and being black and getting to perform this work where there isn't so many black faces, at least in at such a scale, because this magic immersive is huge in the magic world.
Yeah.
So and Jamie Allen, who created it, I spoke with him backstage, and I think it was just amazing, the advertisement, the marketing for it, like we were talking about before. But when I was speaking with Jamie about it, he had said it's amazing because we don't advertise the we don't advertise your blackness. We don't advertise the fact that we have all these female performers. And it was suggestive of a world where we don't need to advertise these things, where people will come, they'll see these performers, and they won't think any differently, but they'll see that we are just as competent, just as professional, just as magnificent on the stage as any other. And I mean, when I spoke with Jamie about that, I thought that was just uh, beautiful. I thought it was quite beautiful. And I appreciated being part of the production even more because of it.
That's so powerful. I love everything that you had to say about that, Edmund. And on that note, please hold 1 second. A word from our sponsor. Okay, hey, it's Shanae, enjoying the podcast, wondering how I make it. If you ever want to start a podcast or make and edit video content, Zencaster is the best tool for newbies and professionals. Easy to use, phenomenal audio and video quality beyond, and offers a free trial. Join the podcast community at zencaster.com, and don't forget to use my code Zencaster-Shanae Stiletto for 30% off your first 3 months of professional podcasting. The link is in the description of this episode. And now back to the show. Thank you, Edmund. Please continue if you have any extra thoughts. You shared that so beautifully. I think it's amazing. I think, and many times when people ask me about what it means being a Black acrobat, and that's why I have acrobat in the title of the show. People that know me always think it's strange that the show is called Live Like an Acrobat, but the reason why I did that is because that's the thing that people have asked me since I was a very little girl, because I've always been an acrobat and I've never been anything else. And people
Right.
meet me on the street, or if they meet me in passing, whatnot, they say, "How is it like to live like that, though? Like, you're an acrobat." And so it's, it's really. But then on top of that, when Black people come and see me, Black audience members, little Black gymnasts or little Black acrobats. They point it out all the time. And that's not something that usually my white counterparts hear, or even something that I end up sharing all the time, even though it happens so often. But I usually get asked that. They'll say, like, why does that mean so much? And I say, well, you don't realize that they come up to me after a show and they'll say, she's never seen a Black girl that looks like her, who's
Yeah.
tiny, that's doing acrobatics or that's doing gymnastics or that's doing circus. She's never seen that before. This is really important to
Yeah.
us. So it's those conversations that we have, that our white counterparts many times are not privy to, because it's not something that I would bring up afterwards. I would just say, oh, they really wanted to take a photo with me, or they had a very nice time. They love the show. They're very appreciative. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily bring up the color aspect of it. But I started to this last, obviously, couple of years, when people have asked me more and more because they're curious, and opening up those conversations, and being transparent in those ways has really changed a lot of people in the business, and just a lot of different people that I've interacted with, that are connected to entertainment in just other ways. And to me,
Yeah.
it's always felt very special. I've always felt very honored by that. And I've always felt very in tune with that, because it's never lost on me, again, that we're one of few. And as much as it's changing and it's growing, and there's, people like Magic Immersive and productions like Magic Immersive, that are figuring out innovative ways to do this, and to have representation and to have diversity and have equity. And even just within the first, yeah, like you said, like few moments of being there, it was a completely enlightening moment. I also wanted to speak to the fact that, because you have such a Shakespearean background, and it reminds me actually right now, because Denzel Washington is, I think he just came out in Macbeth, right?
He did.
He
Yes.
did. He did. How do you feel about that? I'm very curious, because it literally just reminded me of that. Because also, too, the reason why I asked that is because there are so few Black actors that end up using that type of dialogue, that are in those type of roles. When you think Shakespeare, when you think, again, there's been some, but again, there's not so many. And so you have a very interesting tone. You have a very interesting cadence when you perform, obviously because of your very devout background in theater. And it
Yeah.
totally just reminded me of that. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too.
I mean, I think I actually do, after I say this, want to get back to what we were just speaking about with my magician experience, because I think it kind of plays into the conversation that we're having. But with Denzel Washington being Macbeth, I mean, you can look in my bio on Instagram. It says, is Edmund Clark the next Denzel Washington or Tommy Wiseau? Either way, he acts hard. But
What did
I
well?
I think it's amazing. I think it's great. I think with Shakespeare, people have found a for a long time now universality for and a versatility of other ethnicities playing the roles. And and in Shakespeare, there's not a lot of description of how the characters appear physically. Of course, uh, I guess skin wise, right? They're unless it's something as overt as Othello or Aaron from Titus Andronicus, the amount of characters that are in Shakespeare are rarely given a description. It doesn't, if he says, "Oh, your white face," then it's usually because of some sort of fear or gloom or distraught nature is has taken over them. Or your black face, usually in reference to just something that's more metaphysical than physical, being something evil or something sly and cunning or of the shadows. But I think with Denzel, it's interesting because ever since he did Fences, I'm a big fan of James Earl Jones, and I love his interpretation of Fences when he had performed it. Uh, but ever since he had done Fences, I feel as though Denzel, in particular, has started to become a sort of, I mean, he is a director, but an actor director where he can act, but he's also keenly aware of his space, of his surroundings, of the language, and has fostered this appreciation of language. And I think that it reflects in almost all of his roles that he's done. But I think in him doing this, it really shows, because with Shakespeare, I mean, nobody nobody commits themselves to analyzing and interpreting Shakespeare unless they have some form of love for language and theater and movement, right? So it's it's hard. You have to really dedicate yourself to understanding poetry, but it's certainly I think indicative of someone's appreciation for the language that they speak, especially English. And so seeing Denzel play play Macbeth, I think just outside of skin color is just amazing. I mean, he has this reputation. He has a cadence as well with speaking. He speaks clearly, which is amazing. I don't normally need to put on subtitles for him.
You're like, he's Denzel Washington.
He's Denzel Washington, and I think him doing this as well not only shows as a black actor, as a black thespian or performer, that Shakespeare remains relevant to today, but that it can be done. Main characters can be done by black performers, by black artists.
And bringing it back around to you as a black magician, because it could be anyone.
Yeah, exactly. It could be Mikey right now.
It could be
I,
Mikey.
I told some kids back there that they so I'd give them an extra card with my stage name. I gave myself a stage name. And
As you should. That's
they
I'm Shanae Stiletto.
so it's wait, is Stiletto your stage
Oh
name?
yes. Oh yes.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. I never put two and two together. I guess nobody really has the last name Stiletto.
Oh,
It
okay.
rolls off the tongue. It really rolls off the tongue. It goes well together.
Thank you.
But I shouldn't say my stage name. My stage name is my name, but my character name, I gave my character up there the Victorian magician the name Putimus Moore, and after one of Shakespeare's characters, and then Moore because I work at Moore's Clothing.
I love well.
But yeah, I'd sign Pyramus Moore on the card and give it to the kids, and I'd say, now you need to promise me you'll be the next greatest magician. And one kid actually, he looked at me and he had a toddler belly, and he was just really excited to be in my presence and to see the show and to be getting an extra card. And he kind of nods his head. He's like, "Mhm, okay." Right. The kids were the I mean, some of the best parts, because I had to bring a lot of them on stage and interact with them. So they were always unpredictable, but so fun.
The little boy you
But
brought
what was I
on
getting at?
stage. The little boy you brought on stage when I came and saw you perform, which again you were just fabulous. You were otherworldly. You really were able to transport us as an audience to another world with your energy and with your presence, which is hard to do. I think in any space. And the little boy that you had on, he was just he was so great. I remember him.
Oh yeah,
He was. He said so. He asked you something which was so funny. I wish I could remember right now. But anyhow, you made it really
yeah. There
comfortable.
was one. there was one kid uh, who she was so funny. She started to become the main act after a while when she
As
started
they do.
realizing she was getting laughs. Yeah.
As they
And I had her on the levitation table, and right before, so just so everyone knows, when I was on stage, I was dressed up in this Victorian sort of tux and coattails, and I had the top hat, and I had the goatee and the mustache, and so I looked like I was straight out of 19th century England. And she looks at me and she goes, "You're not going to cut me in half, are you?" And she kept screaming that, "You're not going to cut me in half, are you?" And and I said, "Kid, that's the evening performance. This is the matinee."
it's 12 o'clock. It's a little early for
Yeah,
that.
it's a little early for me to be getting out the surgeon tools. Uh, but yeah, the kids were funny. Sorry, I totally got lost in the sauce.
Oh no, that was beautiful. That was and yeah, shout out to audience participation,
Yeah,
which never gets old. Which is a fabulous thing that you've incorporated into the show as well too, especially during such times.
yeah,
Please continue.
yeah. Well, I just remembered kind of going to what we were talking about earlier about representation on stage, and the sort of experience I had as now as just a magician, because I had never entered the circus world either, and I got a taste of that because a lot of my castmates were from the circus. There were a number of them who had already worked in circ, and others who were professional dancers who had worked in circus as well. And speaking with them and talking with them about the technical aspects, not of production but of performance, getting and kind of playing into what we were just talking about, having that awareness on stage and having a technique. I had never had such a in-depth experience or conversation centered around the technical foundations of a performance, how there's tempos and rhythms that suggest things in dance, of course, and but things in aerialism and things in acrobatism and I mean in magician work. I often said backstage that magic seems more theater than theater at times. So it was incredible working with all of these people who trained every day practicing their craft, honing it, and I mean perfecting it, making it natural. So I that was my first time experiencing something like that, because in the acting world, it's really easy to rely on your intuition and to simply just roll with that and hope something comes about it. But having a nice foundation of of technique, I think just sort of allows for a more consistent string of performances with the addition of intuition and talent and all these other emotional factors. Things on that just sort of piles on top of that foundation. But I'd finally gotten to work with a full cast of these, I mean, just these sculptures. How else can I put it? I mean, they were amazing. They had such a technical precision about their performance that I it inspired me to really throw myself into the process and keep up with my colleagues and make sure that you know my star wasn't snuffed, that 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 I was that I was as bright a star or maybe brighter.
I mean,
now I'm just now I'm just teasing. but but yeah, and so I think when people go to see that, when people go to see performances where there is skill, there's art, right? They look past the skin. 100% they look past the skin. They see, and I think they enter into a different world entirely, into a more imaginative world when that happens. And it was great working with such talented and hardworking performers from various backgrounds. It was I hope to gain another experience like that.
I hope you do too. And I would
Thank
love
you.
to transition into your short film that has been nominated for the Cannes
Mm,
Film Festival, which is incredible. I mean, I've been to Cannes once, not exactly during the festival, but I was doing
yeah.
events there and just to at least have gone once. But that's extraordinary. I watched it. I watched your short film, and I encourage all the listeners to watch Edmond watch his short film because it's very powerful. It's very, very powerful. And I would love to hear about how you got into this project, Edmund, and what it means to you to be nominated on this level as an actor among, yeah, such names. I mean, it's really an honor.
I I appreciate that. And thank you so much for watching it. I appreciate you watching it, and I appreciate anyone else who checks it out. It was it came out of nowhere for me. I mean, I was in the middle of my master's degree, and Sarah Lang, who directed it, she had we had worked together on another production a year or so before, and we really enjoyed working with each other. And then afterwards, I'd done one other smaller project where it was a music video because she said that she was working on music videos for like a string of music videos. So, and I had done that for this country band, and this will all connect, I swear. I was doing this. I was doing extra work for this music band, and just on one music video production. And then I hadn't heard from Sarah in a little bit, and then I get an email from her saying, "Hey, would you like to be a part of this production?" And I thought, "Oh, for sure, it's just another music video." And I said, "Yeah, sign me up." Right? I'm not doing anything. I mean, I'm in the middle of school, but if depending on the timing, it we can make something work, right? And they were very flexible with my schedule, and she sent me the script and the breakdown, and I read the script, and I said, this is a weird music video. There's no music. And that was the first red flag is there's no music and there's there's only two people speaking. And then I thought, whoa, no way. It's an actual gig. It's an actual short film. And I had no clue where they wanted to take this. I just know that it was work for a friend. I went and we shot it. I think overall for me, we had the rehearsal, which was one day, and then we shot it all of it in the second day. So it's just a 2 day process for me.
Wow.
And they said that they were planning to send it to all submit it for all different types of film festivals. And they really believed in the script, and so did I. I really enjoyed working alongside Brandon McPherson, who incredible guy, incredible actor, hard worker. I still talk with him today and hope to do more projects with him and his new production company, Tor York. And afterwards, I go back into my studies. I just go right into school, and I get a phone call. This is probably close to exam season. I get a phone call, and there's no caller ID. I don't think I've even told Sarah this story. I there's I think Brandon knows because yeah, Brandon
Secret
knows,
Service
but
called you.
I didn't tell. Yeah, I didn't tell Sarah this, but shh. But I get this phone call. There's no caller ID. I'm kind of already stressed because of all these papers I have, and and I answer the phone because it's from Toronto, so it's probably not spam. I have an American number, so I get a lot of American spam. But it's from Toronto, and I pick up and I said hello, and then I just hear this excited voice on the other end that's kind of breaking up. I think they're outside, so I can barely hear them at times, and they're saying something. Edmond, France, festival, submission, and I'm sometimes I'm too nice. I It works against me because someone's so excited on the other end, and I just want to join them in the excitement. So I'm saying, "Oh yeah, no way, cool," but I have no conception of what is happening. All I hear is festival submission, and then I said, "Oh, this is incredible," and the voice on the other side says, "Yeah, so if you want to come with us and join us, have a good one." And I say, "Yeah, you have a great one as well. This is incredible. No way!" I'm getting more excited, and then I hang up, and then I go up to my roommate and I say, "I don't know who I was speaking to." I, said-
You're
I
feeling
I have no
that
clue what they said. I was like, man, I don't know what
way.
I did, but it sounds really exciting.
I wonder what it is.
Yeah,
I wonder what I did.
yeah.
It sounds
And
honored.
it clicked with me afterwards. It clicked with me afterwards
The
that,
Academy.
oh wait,
The
I
Academy.
I said I said I said I need to message Brandon because I think that may have been Sarah. And so I messaged Brandon. I go, did Sarah just call you or me about some sort of festival and something in France? And he goes, dude, our short film just got into the diversity short film corner for the Cannes Film Festival. And I sunk. I was like, what the? I'm not going to say it.
I mean, it's the dream. The dream.
it
I mean,
it
for
was
actors, I mean, there's so few higher honors than in this realm. I mean, that's amazing.
yeah, it was a huge deal. It was a huge deal. I didn't understand the gravity of it my until the preparatory work leading up to it, and my experience there was it was new. To be honest, I won't say that it was great. I think I was ill prepared coming to coming to Cannes. I think as an actor, it's not, just truthfully speaking, and just from my own experience there, it's not beneficial to go unless you have something to offer. I thought I was under the impression that going over there, I would schmooze, and as an actor, people are looking to cast actors, but investors are looking to cast directors and people behind the camera more so. So I had a bunch of ideas. I just didn't have them in a proper format and one that would, I think, elicit my professionalism and my vision. So going to Cannes was amazing, incredible. If you have a ticket to go, I mean, go. It's super expensive, but go. The amount of connections you make regardless of whatever you have prepared is phenomenal. I have so many LA contacts now, and I mean French contacts as well, that I never would have thought I'd gain. And everyone is working. Everyone is, I guess I'll emphasize it again, everyone is working. Everyone is doing their craft, executing it, and doing it at a level that brings people together, that makes people want to work with them, regardless of the budget constraints, but because work is being done. And that was the phenomenal thing about seeing all those short films, especially in my corner, was the amount of people who did this for free, who created these short films. A lot of them had significant budgets, but people contributed to them pro bono, low wage, because at that time, COVID. This was the Cannes Film Festival right out of COVID. There wasn't a whole lot of creation happening, so I think it really spurred people on to want to just get some work out there. I mean, I had done my work for free. I was just helping out. I was just helping out a friend. I thought it was a great opportunity to get something on my demo reel, my portfolio, and I mean, look where it got me. But I think it was something that was suggestive of how much people were wanting to create, how passionate people still are despite their pandemic situations or circumstances. And the film festival itself, the short film corner itself was incredible. They didn't format it because of it coming out of COVID. They didn't format it as a competition as you usually would see, right? in any of the other corners. They framed it as a showcase because of all the hardships that people were going throughout the last, I guess at this point, year and a half. They wanted to bring people together to enjoy something together as opposed to compete for something. And I thought that was lovely. So nobody, I think they did like a small little competition at the end where you can do a little audience vote, but the essence of it was for community, not competition.
That's amazing. You're amazing. You're incredible, Edmond. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. And in honor of Valentine's Day, since we have just a short few minutes left in the podcast, you
Oh,
said that you would send us off with a sonnet. So, as a treat for listeners, in honor of Valentine's Day, we get the Edmond Clark sending us off with a wonderful sonnet. He is just a joy. You've been just such a treat, Edmond. You are incredible. You're such a presence and such a voice. And I'm so honored to have you on the podcast. And thank you again.
thank you so much, Shanae. It was an honor to be on here. And to all those star-crossed lovers, let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark, which looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out, even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
Thank you, Edmond. This podcast was recorded on Zencaster. The Live Like an Acrobat podcast is also available on Circus Talk, the inclusive, independent, and international online network for the circus industry. Circus Talk's mission is to create a level playing field for this industry and democratize access to information. I'm your host, Shanae Stiletto. Thank you so much for joining this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. Until next time, please stay safe and stay healthy.